When you're building applications, you want them to deliver a great experience for your users. Maybe you want your application to generate in-app purchase options during a gaming session, rapidly validate street address updates, or make image thumbnails available instantly after a user uploads photos. To make this magic happen, your application needs back-end code that runs in response to events like image uploads, in-app activity, website clicks, or sensor outputs. But managing the infrastructure to host and execute back-end code requires you to size, provision, and scale a bunch of servers, manage operating system updates, apply security patches, and then monitor all this infrastructure for performance and availability. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just focus on building great applications without having to spend lots of time managing servers? Introducing AWS Lambda. AWS Lambda is a compute service that runs your backend code in response to events such as object uploads to Amazon S3 buckets, updates to Amazon DynamoDB tables, data in Amazon Kinesis streams, or in-app activity. Once you upload your code to Lambda, the service handles all the capacity, scaling, patching, and administration of the infrastructure to run your code and provides visibility into performance by publishing real-time metrics and logs to Amazon CloudWatch. All you need to do is write the code. AWS Lambda is very low cost and does not require any upfront investment. When you use AWS Lambda, you're simply charged a low fee per request and for the time your code runs, measured in increments of 100 milliseconds. Getting started with AWS Lambda is easy. There are no new languages, tools, or frameworks to learn. You can use any third-party library, even native ones. The code you run on AWS Lambda is called a Lambda function. You just upload your code as a zip file, or design it in the integrated development environment in the AWS Management Console. Or you can select from a list of function samples pre-built for common use cases such as image conversion, file compression, and change notifications. And built-in support for the AWS SDK makes it easy to call other AWS services. Once your function is loaded, you select the event source to monitor, such as an Amazon S3 bucket or Amazon DynamoDB table, and within a few seconds, Lambda will be ready to trigger your function automatically when an event occurs. With Lambda, any event can trigger your function, making it easy to build applications that respond quickly to new information. To learn more about AWS Lambda, visit our website and you can get your first Lambda function up and running with a few clicks in the AWS Management Console. And with the AWS free tier, you can try Lambda for free.
AWS AppSync is a fully managed GraphQL API service that improves application performance and enables companies to build applications faster. GraphQL improves app performance through simplified data access. You query only the data you need for your app, and you can access, manipulate, and combine data from multiple data sources in a single network request. GraphQL enables faster development because backend developers are able to provide simplified data access through a unified API. As a result, front-end developers always have access to the data they need to quickly add features to applications. With AWS AppSync, your applications scale automatically with built-in security, caching, and fine-grained access control. With no servers to manage, your costs are lower, and you can focus on your code and not infrastructure. With managed GraphQL subscriptions, AWS AppSync can push data updates over WebSockets to millions of clients, making AppSync ideal for real-time data use cases. Power your applications with the right data faster with AWS AppSync. Learn more at aws.amazon.com/appsync.
Customers build applications using AWS Lambda to be more agile while taking advantage of built-in security, scalability, and high availability. But when your data-intensive applications require fast access to large volumes of shared data, the ephemeral nature of AWS Lambda functions and their limit of 512 megabytes of local storage can pose a challenge. Without a persistent file store, your applications would need to download your data from a separate object store or database, process it, and then write any changes back to the original source. Amazon Elastic File System, EFS, solves this issue by enabling your applications to access data directly without having to download it to local storage first. EFS is a highly available, durable, serverless, set and forget Elastic file system that simplifies the sharing of data that must persist beyond and between executions of AWS Lambda functions. There's no additional coding required to ensure data consistency. When data changes, it's immediately available across separate AWS Lambda function invocations, Amazon EC2 instances, and your containers running on Amazon ECS. And you can configure your AWS Lambda functions to access an EFS file system in a single step via the AWS Management Console, CLI, or SDK. The powerful combination of AWS Lambda and EFS is ideal for loading large models, libraries, and other reference data to allow you to build serverless machine learning and other data-intensive applications. You can also use AWS Lambda with EFS to process and back up large amounts of data, host web content, and develop internal build systems. To learn how you can try out AWS Lambda and Amazon EFS for modern application migration and any data-intensive workloads in the AWS cloud, please visit the link shown below.
Introducing Amazon EC2 Mac instances, enabling you to run on-demand macOS workloads in the cloud for the first time. You can launch macOS development environments in minutes. Create and reuse your configurations with customized macOS images. Scale capacity up and down as you build and test applications, and pay only for your actual usage with pay-as-you-go pricing. EC2 Mac instances are built on the AWS Nitro system and combine Apple Mac Mini computers with the security, reliability, scalability, high performance, and geographic reach of the AWS global infrastructure. This means you can quickly and confidently develop, build, test, and sign apps for Apple platforms. EC2 Mac instances can unify your heterogeneous development environments, reducing overhead and improving agility. And because they're part of the AWS cloud, you can use Mac instances with many other AWS services for storage, networking, management, and more. Getting started with Mac instances is easy. You can use the AWS Management Console, command line interface, or SDKs. Get started today.
Welcome to AWS Educate's Cloud Career Pathway. AWS Educate helps you create a pathway into innovative and lucrative opportunities in the rapidly expanding cloud industry. On AWS Educate, you will discover the skills necessary to advance into cloud careers, explore content, test your knowledge, seek micro-credentials as badges and certificates of completion, and even have the opportunity to apply for jobs and internships in the cloud. Start off by building your profile, adding your resume, classes, degrees attained, and other facets of your experience. Then, select a cloud career field. From there, we'll personalize your plan by providing content that matches your pathway. As you consume that content, we'll prompt you to take knowledge checks of 3 to 5 questions in order to gauge your comprehension. After you've completed 50% of the knowledge checks, you'll have a chance to earn an AWS Educate badge. Then, up-level your profile by completing a project and a final assessment, and you can receive an AWS Educate Certificate of Completion. Take applicable courses at your school or online to grow your knowledge and fill gaps in your skill set. All of these achievements can be added into your portfolio. Then put it all together. Apply for a job or internship at Amazon or at one of our customers or partners through the AWS Educate job board. Download your portfolio and send it to your potential employer to get your ideal job in the cloud. So what are you waiting for? Start your career pathway today.
welcome to another episode of the Community Ignite series, Innovating on the Cloud, Building with AWS. So first is Mosfel, or Mo for short. She is the marketing and partnerships of Apper.ph.
Apper is actually an advanced tier consulting partner for AWS, as well as a recognized public sector partner.
Wesley now is a cloud architect and solutions architect at Apper.ph.
Tell you more about the services types of cloud computing. IaaS, platform as a service. Software as a service, the application and integration services, function as a service.
As a solutions architect, you really need to know all the service types.
As an FA, you actually have to know most of the services. So as an FA, you have to know how to build the services that you have designed. So most of the time, I actually implement on the security side or the AWS organization or SSO side to the client and implement it on their AWS account.
So this Community Ignite series is co-presented by AWS and AWS Ciclab Pilipinas.
Hi everyone! Good evening! Ayan. Welcome to the 15th episode of the Community Ignite series, Building Your First Serverless Application. I am your host, Dara David, a Technical Community Manager of EdukasyonPH. So long time no see sa inyong lahat, and I'm so happy to host again and to spend my Thursday night with you guys. So kamusta naman kayo? If you're a student, let me know what university you're from. Pag professional naman, type your career in the chat box. So pakilala naman kayo. Ayan. So while waiting for everyone to chat, I'm currently a third-year comsci major from FEU. So go Tamaraos. How about the others? I wanna get to know you guys. Ayan, rinig ba ako? Ayan, mga shy pa yung ating mga participants. Pakilala naman kayo. Ayan, so Ralph is from Gordon College. Hi, Francis. See you later. Ayan, hi, Nico from Jose Rizal University. How about the others? Do we have some professionals? Uy, first year. Hello, BSc St. Lasal. I hope you're enjoying your first year right now. Second year, BSECE from Eastern Visayas State University. Ayan. So, nice to meet you all. So, before we continue, ano nga ba ang Community Ignite series? So, ayan, meron pa si Jaira. Hi! Ayan, so these are Thursday short episodes where we bring people, product, and purpose together. So you, as a young IT professional or early in your career, or just a young at heart or starting in the tech industry, you will definitely benefit from this series, especially that this is co-presented by, drumroll ako, mag-drumroll while waiting for the yan. So this series is co-presented by Amazon Web Services AWS and AWS Ciclab Pilipinas. Ayan. So in the previous talk, the topic was all about innovating in the cloud, building with AWS. So you can check all about it in our social media accounts. So make sure to follow our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and many more to stay updated. So ayan, may QR code tayo, guys. So just scan the QR code or you can go to Linktree. And you can follow everything there. So search nyo lang AWS Ciclab Pilipinas or you can scan the QR code. And alright, so wag na natin patagalin pa. Our speaker for tonight is a solutions architect at Amazon Web Services. And as an AWS SA, she helps customers in their cloud journey and provides them guidance and consultations. So she has a decade of experience and is adept in release management, continuous integration and delivery, and in building microservices applications. So let's all give a warm welcome to the very beautiful Miss Damsel Acosta. Ayan. So, all right. So later pa pala si Miss Damsel sa kanyang Q&A session. So hi, how are you feeling tonight, Miss Damsel, before we move on to your talk?
It's great. It's great to see you. It's great to see everyone, especially yung mga students na kasama natin ngayon. I hope you will learn a lot from this session.
And thank you, Miss Damsel. So if you have any questions for Miss Damsel, please feel free to type it on the chat box. And yeah, so good luck on your talk po, Miss Damsel. So yeah, play na natin.
Hi everyone, good evening. So my name's Damsel Acosta. So I'm a solutions architect at AWS. And today I will be sharing with you about serverless and what are the different components that you can use in order to successfully build your first serverless application. Okay, so over the last year, so the serverless adoption is really growing so fast. And this is because a serverless strategy enables customers to focus on things that really benefits their customers and not on the overhead or the infrastructure management side of things. So by using serverless, businesses and companies get to market faster. The businesses want to lower, of course, their cost of ownership, and they can definitely do this with serverless because they could easily replace capex or the upfront cost incurred for assets that will be used in the future with opex or the day-to-day operational expenses that supports their businesses. Aside from that, they also want their applications and infrastructure to be reliable or to be highly available and scalable. So in the cloud, this is very easy to do compared to traditional on-premise setup. So aside from that, the benefit that they would get by using serverless is it gives you the highest security and isolation by design. So what do we see customers building using serverless? Okay, so we see customers building a wide variety of applications with serverless as the building blocks to these applications. And there's a few common areas where we tend to see a huge benefits in this. So some companies start out by using IT automation, such as using Lambda functions to validate some configuration each time an EC2 instance is launched. Aside from that, we see individual teams using Lambda integrations with S3 or with Kinesis Streams or other AWS services in order to build a data processing application. And then as their experience spreads, so multiple teams will now start building whole microservice based applications. So most often than not, this is for web applications, right? And finally, as they go and um, be more competent in using serverless, so they often use Lambda in machine learning applications as well. Okay, so now to the meat of things and in our agenda. So let us first define what a serverless is. So when we say serverless, one of the most common misconception is that there are no servers running underneath that serverless application or platform. But in reality, the reason why we call it serverless is because we're building and running applications without the need to think about the servers, right? So serverless means that there are no server management. Okay? So this means that your application will be able to scale automatically. So that means that they're highly available and you only have to pay for the resources that you use. And the benefit of that is that you get to eliminate the heavy lifting tasks for you, so you don't need to do provisioning, do patching, or to even do OS maintenance. Okay, you also no longer need to worry about ensuring that your application is fault tolerant because as mentioned, by using serverless, it is already highly available by default. So by doing this greatly reduce your overhead so that your developers or even your DevOps engineers would have more time in developing solutions rather than improving your infrastructure or doing firefighting in your operation side of things. So usually when we talk about serverless on AWS, the first thing that comes into our mind is AWS Lambda. Okay? But serverless is actually a lot more than AWS Lambda. If we actually take a closer look at this slide right here, so it shows the different serverless services that we have across different categories. So you can see here for compute, we have AWS Lambda and we also have AWS Fargate. For data store, we have Amazon S3, we have Amazon Aurora Serverless, and we also have Amazon DynamoDB. For integration, This is where we have Amazon Event Bridge, Amazon API Gateway, Amazon SQS, Amazon SNS, and AWS Step Functions. Okay? And while Lambda itself already offers many key advantages in your serverless workload, it's really when all of these components are used together that we start to see the big difference or the bigger benefits that you can gain. Okay, so let me give you an example of that. So we know how scalable Lambda can be, and that it can, handle thousands of requests, right? But one thing that you must also consider is the backend service or your data store that Lambda connects to or gets data from. Okay, so if Lambda gets thousands of requests and Lambda scales, so that we beat. But how about when your database, for example, so will it be able to scale the way that your Lambda scales, or will it be able to handle all the requests that your Lambda throws to it? Will it time out, or will it become a bottleneck for you and your application? Okay, so that's why putting a scalable data store across all of this serverless application, and that is that they follow the design principle of small pieces loosely joined. Okay, that means that all of these applications are modular joined. Okay, that means that all of these applications are modular and it's composed from multiple AWS services. And the benefit of that is it makes it easy to build new applications and even new functionalities through loose coupling with other components. Okay, so most often than not, it starts with an API managed by API Gateway, and then you already have the business logic, right, where it runs in the AWS Lambda all the way across to your data stores. In terms of architecture, so this is an example of a serverless architecture that we see being adopted in different use cases. So in here, it is divided into 5 different layers. So first, when you interact with an application, so most often than not, it starts with a CDN or Amazon Cloud Front that securely delivers your data or your content closer to your users. Aside from that, we also have the Amazon S3 that you can use for storing your static content. And before you could further access your backend or your application layer later, you can have the option to set up an authentication method for your APIs or your front end. And you can easily do this by using Amazon Cognito. Next, we have the Amazon API Gateway. So this is lies in our API layer, which serves as a front door to our application. So we also have, of course, the AWS Lambda that is used for creating business logic and functions as your application layer. And finally, we have the Amazon DynamoDB for the data layer. So I'd say that these are the most common building blocks that you will see and use in building your serverless application. And later we will be diving deep into each one of these services or each one of these layers in the next few slides. Okay, so to start off, we have the static content and a little bit of content delivery. So usually when your users want to interact with your website, so what they do is they make a request. So that is either from their desktop or their mobile, and it goes straight through Route 53 or the domain name system. So Amazon Route 53 is our highly available and scalable domain name system. This is where you can buy domains or maybe transfer DNS records from any existing domain that you have. It also has the ability to let you choose which routing policy that you will use. So this tells Route 53 how to respond to certain queries. Okay, so going back, the domain name system or Route 53 will then forward the request to Amazon CloudFront. So Amazon CloudFront is a content delivery network, and its main objective is to distribute your content with low latency. So it does this by serving your request using a network of edge locations or points of presence that we have around the world. Okay, and then after that, CloudFront will then get the static contents of your website from your selected origin, which is in this case is our S3 bucket. Okay, so Amazon S3 or Simple Storage Service is one of the oldest service in AWS. So it's super scalable and it provides you with a serverless storage. Okay, it provides you with virtually infinite storage without any provisioning, and it can handle millions of requests per second. And like other serverless servers, so it provides you with continuous scaling, which means that you never have to pay for any idle resources. Okay. And though S3 bucket are most commonly associated with a storage resource that goes that usually goes hand in hand with other compute resources, but in the serverless world, they mostly handle the static requests and contents for your website. Okay, the good thing about it is that you don't have to worry about how to scale your web server anymore, or in this case your website anymore, because as S3 is inherently scalable and highly available. Okay, so that means that it can scale seamlessly and serve thousands of HTTP and HTTPS requests per second, and it even has an SLA of 99.9% of availability and 11 nines of durability. So after our users browse through our static contents, which can be your splash page or your corporate page or simply the front page of your web application, you may now need some kind of authentication to verify or authenticate your users before letting them access or communicate with your backend services. And for this, we have Amazon Cognito. So Cognito lets you easily add user sign in or sign up and authentication to your mobile and web applications. So you can have the option to use simple authentication with the use of username and password, or to authenticate your users through social identity providers like Facebook, Twitter, Amazon OIDC, or you can also integrate your own identity provider as long as it supports SAML. Okay, so also one of the cool features of Cognito is that it has its own hosted user interface that you can use for your login page. So what you will be doing mostly now is just the integration part. So Cognito is comprised of two services. Okay, so we have the user pool. We also have the identity pool. Okay, so these two services solve the same problem, which is authentication and authorization, and can be used separately or together. Okay, so let's first start with Amazon Cognito user pool. So the user pool provides a user directory for your application, and it serves as your own identity provider to maintain a user directory. So it takes care of the authentication part, and it supports the user registration and also the sign in as well, including the provisioning of identity tokens for signed in users. So let's say you were creating a new web application or mobile application, and you were thinking about how to handle user registration, authentication, and account recovery. So this is where Cognito user pool would actually come in. So user pool will be able to handle all of this, and as a developer, you just need to use the SDK in order to retrieve the user-related information that you may need in authenticating that certain user. Okay, so on the other hand, the main purpose of Amazon Cognito Identity Pool is to authorize and to map users from an identity provider. Okay, so this can be from Cognito User Pool or from an external identity provider to an IAM role. Okay, so for example, say you wanted to allow a user to have access to your S3 bucket so that they could upload a file. So you could specify that by creating an identity pool. Okay. And to create these levels of access, the identity pool has its own concept of identity or users. So the source of this identity or users could be your Cognito user pool or even Facebook or Google user data. So we have here an example of what the authentication flow for a social identity provider like Facebook or Google or Amazon would look like. So the app starts the sign up or the sign in process by directing your users to the sign in user interface, either the one hosted by AWS Cognito or your own custom user interface. Okay. So once Cognito receives this request, the user pool determines the identity provider for your user and then redirects you to the appropriate identity provider's login page. So the user will then input his or her credentials and then the IDP authenticates the user. So once he or she is now authenticated, then the third party identity provider will give you a token. So this token will then be received by Cognito. And then this token will be used to complete the authentication process and then will redirect you to the landing page that you have specified in your Cognito settings. So this token will also be passed on to AWS services like API Gateway, which you can configure a Cognito authorizer for your API Gateway in order to authenticate the request to your API resources. Now that we have authenticated our request to our API gateway, let's now take a deeper look on our API layer. So APIs are one of the primary mechanisms through which these small pieces or services would communicate with each other. So in a sense, they are considered as the front door of microservices. So what is Amazon API Gateway? So API Gateway, as the name implies, so it acts as a gateway or the front door for all of your services. So it is a fully managed API platform that creates a unified API for your microservices. And because this is essentially a gateway for all of your services, and then therefore the security is a top priority. So some of the security features that you can get with API Gateway is the flexibility of its security controls. So you can authorize access to your APIs with AWS IAM or Identity and Access Management and with Cognito as well. You can also incorporate AWS WAF or a web application firewall in your API gateway that will provide you some level of protection against layer 7 attacks. And another good thing about this is that API Gateway also provides you with functionalities like throttling, with metering, and the ability to monetize your APIs by publishing them as products in the AWS Marketplace. Now, API Gateway currently supports two protocols at the moment. So these are the REST or the RESTful API and also the WebSocket API. So the difference between these two is HTTP is literally a round trip conversation. Okay, when the client, wherein the client may say, hey API Gateway, I'm asking you for something, and the API Gateway will respond to you and say, hey client, you tell me something, and then it's done. Okay, so basically it's a request and a response relationship. But with a WebSocket communication, so it's like the client saying, hey API Gateway, I'm going to be connected to you and we're going to be communicating back and forth. Okay, so the interesting thing about this is once they are connected and that conversation is going, then the back end will actually communicate with the front end without a request being made to the front end. Okay, and this is a good choice for application like chat clients. Now let's take a look at the life cycle of a request and a response when we're integrating with with an AWS service. Okay, so here when a request comes in, so you're going to get a method request, and in this method request, certain actions can happen. So we can do modeling, validation, and also transformation. So in here you can add or append headers, you can add some static value, you can also do some changes to the values that are coming in. Okay, so next, the next thing that it's going to do is it will pass it to what we call an integration request. So this can be in the form of an S3 bucket, a DynamoDB, a Lambda function, or any of the AWS services that are supported in API gateway or any HTTP endpoints. Okay, and this is where those transformations are happening. So for example, you have an API gateway, customize what your backend returns to in order to create a branded 404 response. Okay, now on the way out, once we already got our response back from DynamoDB or Lambda, we have here the integration response, and this is actually the same thing. So you converted the payload going in. Now what you have to do is convert it back to the payload going out. So you can change the headers, the body, do additional changes that you need to do. And finally, we have here the method response. So this is where you can add additional layer or additional headers that can do more transformation and also create custom errors if there are any errors. Right now, we have our authentication. We also have our API gateway. And the next thing that we want to cover is the application layer. So for this, we're going to use AWS Lambda. So Lambda is a compute service that lets you run code without provisioning any servers. So you just upload your code and then Lambda will take care of everything required in order to run or scale your code with high availability. And then after uploading your code, then you can set up your code to automatically trigger from other AWS services, or maybe call it directly from any web or any mobile application. So there are different ways that you can invoke a Lambda function. So this can be directly via the AWS console. You can also use the Lambda API. There's also the AWS SDK, the AWS CLI, and also the AWS toolkits. So Lambda is event driven, so it can be invoked by using triggers as well. So a trigger is a resource or another service or another Lambda function that you can configure to invoke your function in response to certain lifecycle events. Or this could be external request or on a schedule basis like CloudWatch events, schedule fixed interval like 6 minutes, or even from a cron expression. So aside from that, you can also use event source mappings to process items from a stream or from a queue. So events coming from an AWS service or an invocation such as events from DynamoDB, Kinesis, or SQS. So in terms of supported language, so out of the box, Lambda supports Node.js, Python, Java, C#, Go, PowerShell, and also Ruby. But you can also build your custom runtime that can allow you, for example, to run PHP on Lambda, and this could be virtually any kind of language. So aside from that, you can also connect Lambda to other AWS services or public endpoints or DBs and do certain transformations. Okay, so as mentioned, Lambda can be integrated with majority of the AWS services. So this can range from Alexa down to X-Ray. But something to keep in mind here is that Lambda has an execution limit of 15 minutes. And beyond that, your Lambda function will time out. So you have to be aware of that. For the anatomy of a Lambda function, so basically it has three, I would say, components. So one is the handler. So the handler is the method in your Lambda function that processes the events. You also have the event object. So this is the data that you send during invocation. So for example, this contains the content of an API request, the item of an SQS queue item, or the location of a file on S3. Next is you have the context. So the context object gives you information about the actual execution of the Lambda. So, how about dealing with permissions? So, how does Lambda deals with permissions? So, there are actually two types of policies that Lambda actually use. So you have the execution policy. So this is the role that you grant Lambda so that it can access AWS services and resources. So this is where you can consider what your Lambda function can do, which services can this Lambda reach, or do you need to access, let's say for example, DynamoDB. Okay. So it also has the function policies or the resource-based policy. So this allows an AWS service to invoke your function on your behalf, and it also lets you grant permission to other AWS accounts on a per resource basis. So this is useful if you need to access a Lambda function in a different AWS account, and let's say consider who can execute this Lambda function. We all know that the front end and application space innovates in a fast pace, and having said that, we want to make sure that our database can also keep up with the innovation and also with the scalability of our application. So the last piece to complete our serverless puzzle would be the data layer. So as you know, AWS has the most complete family of purpose-built database to give our customers the right tool for the right job so that they could spend less money, be more productive, and also change the customer experience. So the first service that we'll be looking at is DynamoDB. So you can think of DynamoDB as a serverless database in a similar way to Lambda as a serverless compute. So DynamoDB provides a persistence layer that you can leverage for your applications without managing servers. So it's a fully managed NoSQL database designed to provide consistent single-digit millisecond latency regardless of scale. So that means that there's no provisioning, no software patching needed, or upgrades that you need to do. So it automatically scales up and down automatically. So aside from that, this also does continuously backs up your data. It also has encryption enabled in all your data by default, and it fully integrates with AWS IAM for robust security. Another cool feature of DynamoDB is the global replication, or what we call the global tables. So this replicates your DynamoDB tables automatically across your choice of AWS regions, and this gives your application data high availability and additional durability and multi-region fault tolerance. So DynamoDB supports both document and key value data structures. So similar to other NoSQL data stores that you may have worked with in the past. So DynamoDB is fully integrated with Lambda in that you can build a Lambda function to execute and react to data changing within DynamoDB as a database trigger. So for additional features, it also has multi-region. It also supports multi-master. It has built-in security, backup and restore, and in-memory caching for internet scale applications. So for those of you who are using relational database, so we have Amazon Aurora Serverless. So it is an on-demand auto-scaling configuration for Amazon Aurora where the database will automatically start up, shut down, and scale capacity up and down based on your application's need. So it starts up on demand, so the capacity allocated to your Aurora Serverless database cluster scales up and down based on the load generated by the client application, or maybe the CPU utilization or the number of connections that it has. So this scaling actually does not affect your application at all when it scales, so there's no downtime in that. So it can also scale to zero capacity when there are no connections at all for a 5-minute period. So when should you use serverless? So serverless fits a lot of use cases, but typically in the early serverless use cases, or when people want to get their hands dirty and try on serverless, what they would usually use serverless with is IT automation. So this is where you want to automate certain jobs or data processing jobs that runs every um 10 minutes or 30 minutes and whatnot, or probably do some IT operation automation. Let's say, for example, make check your EC2 instances, whether all of them are running properly or whether all of them are using specific tags. Aside from that, serverless can also be used in a lot of microservices architecture. It can also be used in data processing. So, in short, if the workload is event driven, if it's stateless and it can be performed under 15 minutes, then serverless may be a good fit for you. So, if you want to hone your technical skills in building serverless applications, so feel free to visit our hands-on projects or hands-on workshops in our AWS website. So, as an example here, I will be leaving a link to the Wild Rides example so that you can try it out on your own during your free time. Okay. Okay, so that's it for our presentation tonight. So let me know if you guys have any questions. We will gladly answer them all for you. So for the link, so I will be sending them here. This is a hands-on workshop that you can do by yourself um, to better understand serverless and how it works. So it basically has the same application architecture that I've talked about in my previous talk. So maybe since we don't have a question yet, so I'll just I'll just share a demo. So this one actually, I think I'm in the wrong screen. So this one was actually made before. So let me reshare that. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen. So this one actually was a pet project of mine. So it's called Lipad.PH. So it's just a random project that I did. So it was supposed to be like a travel like ticketing system or whatnot. So this all of the contents that you see in here, this page, the about page, the contact us page, and even the flight status, these are all made by using the S3 bucket. So all of the HTML pages, the CSS, the JavaScript, they're all hosted in S3 bucket. And then for the authentication, so I have here, whenever you click the book now page, so it will redirect you actually to Cognito. So let's click the sign in with different user. So this is actually everything that you see in here is built by Cognito itself. So I didn't code anything in here. So the only thing that I changed here is the to connect it with the social identity provider, which is in this case is Google. So you have two options to choose from. So you can sign in via the regular username and password, or you can sign in via your Google account. So let's test the user that I created before. Okay, so once you sign in, so you will actually see here, you can set an origin. So it can be Manila, and then going to Bali, and then you can set the departure date, say December 1, and then 3, and then set the travelers, and then search for available flights. Okay, and then below it will show you the available flight numbers and all the other things that you would need in order to book your flight. So this is not a very sophisticated example, right? So this is just a pet project that I did way back before, but you can see how it all integrated, how everything was done. I believe this was just done in under a month. So it's really fast to learn and also to use a serverless application. And aside from that, all the details that you see in here, like view all flights, the flights that it returns in here are all coming from DynamoDB. Okay. So what else? So maybe just to search a flight. So again, this will call the DynamoDB and look for the flight that I have. So let's say I actually have here the DynamoDB that I have. So you can search all of the records that is being thrown by the website is actually coming from this site from DynamoDB. Okay, so I hope that gives you like a sample or something that you can do or probably duplicate or just to try it for yourself, right?
All right, thank you so much for that wonderful talk, Ms. Damsel. It's really incredible to learn all about AWS and serverless applications. Now I know that our audience has a lot of questions, so just drop it in the chat. But before we move on to that, I would first like to thank our co-presenters, AWS and AWS Cloud Pilipinas. Ayan, so, and we would also like to remind everyone, ayan, yung co-presenters namin, and we would also like to remind everyone that the e-certificates will be given if you guys answer the TSAT forms to be shown later after the event. And you have to provide a correct email address. So let's move on to the question and answer. First question is from Mr. Daniel. So what tech stack did you use on your booking demo pet project?
It's actually just the very basic one. So it's a combination of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then for the AWS services, so I used all of the things that I've shown you earlier, which is S3 for the static website, Cognito for the sign-in, DynamoDB for the database itself, and of course Lambda to tie in my static website or the dynamic pool of my items to from DynamoDB to the front end.
All right, thank you so much. I have a question as well. Is it possible for a running application to transition into a serverless one? Like, what would be your advice?
Yes, it's definitely possible. So for example, if you're already using EC2, right? Or maybe even from a traditional on-premise server. So there are actually multiple ways for you. There are actually multiple paths for you to do, right? In order to move to serverless. But sometimes when doing serverless, you can start with because it's okay. When you use serverless, it's not sometimes kasi when people say na they're using microservices or serverless, what they do is they just dump yung code nila in a Lambda function. And then they would say that, oh, that I'm already using serverless, I'm already using microservices. So that's another common misconception. Kasi ang aim talaga ni serverless or ni AWS Lambda is to have one function do one specific business logic. So what do I mean by that? So for example, one Lambda function will do the call to the database, will update the database, will get items. So may isang function lang siya na ginagawa. And sometimes kasi ang ginagawa ng iba, sa isang function, halo-halo na lahat. So nandun na yung nag-update ng database, nandun yung nagde-delete, lahat ng business logic or multiple business logics are in there. So yun yung mga common na mistakes kasi again, si Lambda can only run for 15 minutes. And of course, yung billing mo din kasi will be based upon kung gaano din siya katagal na nagre-run and yung memory of course na tinitake up ni Lambda. Ayun. So as much as possible, make your Lambda function do a single business logic lang or a single thing lang.
All right, thank you so much. For the next question po, how much did your demo project cost to develop?
Actually, I don't have the numbers. I believe naalala ko ginawa ko to ng cost estimation eh. But the good thing about Lambda kasi, and even with the other serverless, right, it sakop siya sa free tier ni Amazon. So let me just pull up yung sa free tier namin when it comes to Lambda. Para I can give you the price. So actually kasi very minimal lang yung cost nito, and we have I believe 1 million requests for free per month. So if hindi mo siya na-achieve, kunyari hindi ka naman umabot ng 1 million requests per month, so that will be free. So if you go beyond 1 million requests, of course doon ka na mabibill. So may mga alam akong site before na nag-share din sa amin na they've been running their website for free on AWS kasi nga hindi naman nila na-release yung 1 million free request eh. So yun.
All right, I have one question then na gusto ko rin tanungin. So it's by Audric. Is the free tier enough to try out making a serverless application? Like kunyari yun nga pang portfolio lang, ganun.
Yes, actually,
okay.
yes. Sapat na yon kasi ang maganda nga sa serverless, 'di ba, is hindi ka naman nagko-consume talaga ng kumbaga not like EC2, 'di ba, na you have to provision the server, then you have to run them as you go test out your application. Si serverless nag-incur ka lang na cost pag natitrigger mo yung Lambda function or when you're getting records in your DynamoDB kasi nga event-driven sila. So kung wala kang request, wala ka rin namang babayaran.
Alright, another question is, what's the difference between Lambda and Elastic Beanstalk?
Si Lambda kasi it's serverless talaga. So when I say serverless, you just need to put your code in it. Kailangan mo lang siyang i-upload dun sa Lambda console, and then you can trigger it and then mag-run na siya. And then si Elastic Beanstalk naman kasi is actually an orchestration service, meaning it helps you deploy a set or orchestrate multiple AWS services like EC2, load balancer, auto-scaling group, set up the auto-scaling group, and whatnot. So yun yung difference nila. With Lambda kasi siya lang talaga it's a compute service that allows you to upload your code and then trigger it, and then siya na yung mag-run ng business logic mo.
I'm actually really inspired right now kahit wala akong mag-gets. So like, I wanna move on to parang what do you day to day? Kasi right now, nasa ano lang ako, parang nag-aaral lang ako sa AWS Educate, tapos medyo, ayun, parang parang nandun pala ako sa parang mga baby steps. So, if I want to be a solutions architect just like you, di ba? Parang ang bongga kasi no? Solutions architect, di ba? So, where should I get started?
I would say yung sa meron tayong mga career paths or certification paths, right? So start by doing those. So if you can do yung Solutions Architect Associate para to better understand how the AWS cloud computing works, ano yung mga services that we have, how they fit into the bigger picture, how you can use each AWS service and then connect them to one another to create a whole parang I would say cohesive architecture that you can use that could probably solve a business problem or provide business value to you. So doon ka mag-start, and then ang pinaka-importante doon is to get enough hands-on experience kasi it's not just the hindi lang naman tayo theoretical, pero ako yung taong na mas naintindihan ko yung isang bagay kapag ginagawa ko rin. So maybe that's the reason why I have the pet project then. Kasi as I was learning serverless, how serverless works, ano yung AWS Lambda, so doon ko rin yun din yung time na ginawa ko yung project na yung pinakita ko sa inyo. So it's just very simple lang, hindi siya nothing fancy, nothing too complicated, pero it lets you understand how each services work, ano yung mga kailangan mong gawin, right? To understand the concept and all. Kasi minsan iba pa rin yung hinands-on mo siya, like pag natutunan mo lang siya, okay, ganyan. Pero kapag in-apply mo na siya, minsan marami ka pang matutunan na hindi pala pwedeng ganito, na may mga limits pala si Lambda, na kailangan may workaround ka pang gawin, ganyan.
So another question from Mr. Daniel. How about concurrent call sa Lambda? May limit ba? I don't even know what concurrent call means.
So yung concurrency kasi, it's parang when you call a Lambda function, there are times kasi na like how many calls can you accommodate at the same time. So when it comes to Lambda, so there are actually a limit by default that is set to 1,000. So, pero that is not a hard limit, meaning that you can request for that limit to be increased pa. So for example, you feel like 1,000 concurrent limit is not enough for you, then you can request to have it increased. So usually you can do this by going through the support, or you can go to the AWS limits or quotas and then have, send a request there.
Okay, thank you so much. I guess wala nang questions yung mga audience. I have one last question. So how long have you been working as a solutions architect? And can you tell us a little bit about how your day-to-day works, parang yung day-to-day routine mo as a solutions architect?
Okay.
I'm really inspired.
So actually, I started, my first day was during the first day the lockdown of Manila. So that's March 16, 2020. So that's very memorable for me because at the same time, that's when they announced that the lockdown will start. So for my day-to-day job, I mostly do I mostly do customer meetings. So it's like a consultation. So customers will come in, we have a talk to them, we explain how certain AWS services work, we help them unblock, we deep dive into their architecture, provide them help where they need it, and identify the gaps, how we can close that gaps by using our technologies and so forth. It just doesn't stop there, because as you know, I'm engaging with talks like this. So even outside of our working hours, we do talks to help the community, the wider Filipino community, in order to understand better what AWS is, what we can bring, how we can further equip and build our Filipino students and our Filipino community.
Ayan, thank you so much. That's all for the questions. Grabe, I have learned a lot from this one tech-driven webinar. Kahit may mga terms pa ako na hindi nagagets. And kahit di ko siya nagagets, na-excite ako pagtutunan siya. Yun eh. Yung parang kahit di mo nagagets, yung parang feeling of excitement na parang, uy, parang medyo interesting to. That's enough for me, or I hope so everyone then to get started on AWS and AWS services. So I'm so thankful for Miss Damsel Acosta. And of course, we hope that you learned a lot in this episode. So I want to take this opportunity to invite you all in the photo op. So open cam naman tayo dyan. I'm gonna allow the permissions. Naka-allow na ba? Ayun, so photo op naman tayo dyan with the very beautiful Miss Damsel. Yeah. Ayan, picture tayo. And dito na pala, ayan, si Sir Daniel pala yung speakers natin for the past few episodes. Ayan, hi Sir Daniel. Ayan. So, picture tayo. Ayan, intay lang natin. Ayan, intay lang natin mga 1 minute, ganun. Ayan, so, open na kayo, guys. Ayan, hello to everyone. Ayan. Ayan, ba't yung isa blurred? Yung isa naka-blur. Ayan. Hintayin na natin siya. Feeling ko inaayos yung camera niya. Ayan, so, I guess we can take a picture na. So, guys, smile tayo in 3, 1, 2, 3. Ayan, I think okay na. So, dito nagtatapos ang ating Community Ignite Series Episode 15, Building Your First Serverless Application. So, we would like to thank everyone for coming, and your feedback is very much appreciated. So, to answer our CSAT form, please go to go.edukasyon.ph/CIS15 feedback. So, dito nyo makukuha yung mga e-certificates, and please, I swear, please double check na correct yung email address para mapadala namin sa inyo, and please allow mga 3 to 5 business days para ma-process namin lahat ng e-certs. Ayan, so just scan the QR code. Ayan, so wow, diba? I still can't believe we're already at episode number 15. So double digits na tayo sa ating Community Ignite series. And on behalf of EdukasyonPH, thank you guys sa pagsubaybay sa amin. And I'm so excited to see you all next week. So make sure to follow our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and LinkedIn to stay updated. Ayan, just go scan the QR code, and you can also go to Linktree, to our Linktree URL. And then another one is, don't forget to join the Club community. Just like what Miss Damsel here, our goal is to spread the knowledge din. So meron din tayong sariling community, which is Club Community PH. So don't forget to join that, and accept lang namin kayo, and you guys have exclusive updates as well. So intay lang natin yung QR code sa ating community para madali na lang din ma-scan and mag-join. So right now we are at 100 members and we're really growing. Kaya I am so happy to see you guys there. And syempre, pag may mga games, gano'n, wag kayo sumala. Like isang araw, nagpa-IG story kami. So ayun, nakita ko rin yung iba nag-join. So thank you din sa mga nag-join. So, mapapakita ba ang ating QR code? Wait lang, ako na lang. If wala pa. So, wait lang. Ayan, wait. Share ko. Ayan, so don't forget to join our community, facebook.com/groups/AWS Cloud Pilipinas. Ayan. So we have a lot in store for you guys. Ayan, so okay na. So lastly, again, we would like to remind everyone that the e-certificates will be given if and only if you answered our CSAT form. So once again, thank you everyone and stay safe and I'll see you guys next week. So ako ulit yung host next week. So ayun, see you guys next week.
I find the certification highly useful in terms of getting you into the space you want to be in a very short period of time.
Certification gives you the proof that you need to showcase that you have the skills required for a specific market.
It's a goal that you can pursue, so you're not just learning for the fun of, well, I want to learn everything.
It's allowed us to expand some roles of team members. For example, we had a project manager before who was typically managing IT projects. He's now certified and he's pivoted into cloud architecture.
I think that when people are working with certified professionals, they will feel more confident about the work that we are doing together.
A lot of my clients are cloud native. Studying for the Solutions Architect test gave me a broad view of the services AWS provides, so I can understand better how they control and manage data.
Technology is moving so fast, and each day we have different things happening.
Continually evolving is the only way you stay fresh in IT.
And then now you can validate it. Yes, I actually know, and I have retained this knowledge.
To me, it means that you've taken the time and you've dedicated that time to furthering yourself.
It's really great. It's a good feeling.